today I'm making my easy tomato and basil lasagna roll-ups.
What?
Oh yeah, this is curb appeal on 10.
I love roll-ups.
All right, so this is a great dish for the whole family. It's such an easy dinner to throw together during the week. And I start by doing this quick hack of how to get your lasagna noodles pliable without being over pliable and like breaking apart. So I've got like 12 in here in my baking sheet that's got the lips, right? Or the edge. This is piping hot water. Just pour it out.
Oh, right out of the kettle.
Right out of the kettle, right over the top. Make sure you cover it. You actually should move them around a little bit if you see like they might stick before you cover them up with aluminum foil, just so they make sure you've got moisture between all of them. And then just cover it up about 15 to 20, maybe 25 minutes, and they're perfection. Take a look at that.
And these are, wow. Are these the regular lasagna noodles?
Just
Not the
regular.
no-bake, right?
Yeah, they're not the no-bake or the no-boil. They're just regular OG lasagna noodles. And you can see right here, nice and al dente, pliable, but not like break apart. So when they come out of the sheet, if you need to, you can give them a little dry. I'm gonna make the filling, okay? So ricotta cheese. This is an Italian shredded cheese blend. Get a couple of eggs whisked in there. Just gotta kind of hold it together, make sure it doesn't all completely melt. Some parsley, some basil. I want this super herby, just like, you know, littered with herbs. And then to bring it up a little bit, I always add in some lemon zest.
Cool.
And a little bit of spice of the red chili peppers.
That's it?
That's it.
No
yeah.
bechamel. It's so,
no,
it's nice. It's
not
light.
at all.
It's light.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add some black pepper. The cheese already carries a little bit of salt, but it's okay to, for good measure, throw some down. And then just get in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about half. And then I like to kind of tilt it corner to corner, full coverage. Now remember, I've got the lasagna noodles that I kind of dried off. They were sitting for about 15, 25 minutes in that piping hot water and the steam coming up from the aluminum foil. And then just kind of get in here. It's about 1/4 cup. And then just start rolling.
Oh, man. How could these not be good?
Don't do a tight roll either. Just kind of be really nice and gentle about it.
That's cute. It's cute.
That's cute.
It's cute.
Right, it's curb appeal.
It's curb appeal.
So we're not done yet. Now we're just gonna pour over the top the remaining sauce. Make sure you get it out. Now, if you're like my mom, you'll add a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Swish it around and you get everything out. But make sure you pick a sauce with ripe tomatoes. That way it's sweet and it's delicious. All right, so there it is, 375 degrees. My oven is at that. I'm gonna cover this up with a little bit of aluminum foil. And then it's gonna cook for about 20, 25 minutes, and then uncover it. And when you uncover it, it's really just so you get some of those crispy tops. You know what I'm saying? All right, 375, and, oh, thank you, GC.
Top.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
And I'll take that one out, put this one in the bottom.
Got it.
Here it is, you guys. A nice sprinkle over the entire top of some parm.
Oh.
For measure. And then I just like to come in and marry it. So a little bit of fresh parsley, a couple of pieces of fresh basil going in the little top chimney there.
Sonny.
And there you have it.
Perfect. The tomato, everything is so delicious and tasty and just perfectly seasoned. The cheese is just the right amount of cheese. I actually like this better than regular lasagna. Way to go.
Brisk days call for cozy meals, right?
Cozy.
This is my seasonal take on a comfort food classic. Y'all, I'm talking about lasagna. I'm making butternut squash and kale lasagna spirals.
Ooh,
Wow.
Okay?
so like vegetarian, not vegan, but vegetarian.
It is vegetarian, that's right. This would be perfect for a meatless Monday. It also is a great freezer meal because we're making them into spirals. You can individually freeze the spirals and then just have them to pop in to make a quick weeknight dinner.
I love it.
Because this is a little labor intensive, you'll see. Jeff, I'm gonna have you continue to dice up our butternut squash here. You don't have to do anything with this one. It's just here for good looks.
Good.
So I like them a small dice, and we're gonna roast those in the oven. I've got my pan here to start cooking our veg that goes into the filling. So some minced onion. And I like to cut this up pretty fine and just cook them just for a couple minutes till they start to get translucent. That happens pretty quickly because they're so small. Now, with this recipe, you know, we're obviously using a fresh butternut squash that we're chopping up. You could get the prepackaged, the ones that are already chopped up for you at the grocery store. You can buy frozen butternut squash that you could roast, or you could just do a whole substitution and use canned butternut squash puree in this recipe.
Are we gonna puree this, or it gets roasted?
No,
and then
I'm
you're
just
keeping it
roasting
whole?
it and
Okay.
keeping it whole.
I'm
I
like,
don't
why am
think
I
I've
dicing it?
seen
You know?
butternut squash puree yet in my grocery store. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to. I'm not probably even paying attention.
It's right around where the pumpkin is. You could use canned pumpkin in this too if you just wanted the whole thing to be creamy. I like the texture of having
Yeah.
the pieces of the butternut squash. All right, so I'm gonna add to this some chopped up mushrooms. So these are creminis that I've finely chopped. You could use white buttons, you could use a mixture. The sky's the limit with your mushrooms. And cook those just until all that water comes out of them. And then adding to it some garlic.
That's a lot. I like that.
Yeah, I like a lot of garlic in this. I think that mushrooms just take on that garlic flavor so well. And then some nice fall herbs. I always think of sage in the fall.
Of course.
That's one of my favorite cool weather herbs. And some thyme. Both just taste so good with those mushrooms, especially, and with the butternut squash. It really highlights those fall cozy flavors.
I'm finito here, Miss Lee.
Wow, okay. Toss it with some olive oil, salt and pepper, put it into the oven. Those are gonna cook until they're fork tender. It takes about 25, 30 minutes at that size. 30, 35, you know, just kind of watch it. 425 degrees.
Got it.
All right, and I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper.
I also think when you're involving squash with pasta, it can get a little sweet, even if you don't put sugar. So
Yes,
those,
you're right.
those herbs, that sage, the garlic keeps
Yeah.
it savory.
Yeah, totally.
Brings it on over to savory. Add some savory.
I'm gonna add to it some shredded kale. You know how usually in a lasagna, not usually, but sometimes in a lasagna, you'll have spinach, doing like a spinach ricotta filling. So that's where my kale vibes are coming from.
Look at these little morsels over here, huh? You know
Perfect.
that's good.
So see how they cook down even smaller? And they're perfect to go into the filling. Right, those are so sweet and good.
You're gonna know you're eating squash.
Totally. So you just want to let that cook all the way down, then let it cool off, and we're gonna make our filling. So for our filling, I've got some ricotta cheese here. I've got 1 egg to go in. You give that a little mix, and then I'm gonna add to it some Parmesan cheese. You could also use Pecorino Romano. That would be great. I'm gonna add in some shredded cheese. This is like the bag of the Italian mix cheese.
Wow, Katie.
Mozzarella provolone vibes.
Asiago, maybe.
All right, Jeff, take those and put them right in here. And I'm gonna add the mushroom kale filling.
Don't strain yourself, Jeff.
What's up, America? All right, enough of
You
that.
see what I deal with here?
I know.
All right,
Look at that.
give it a quick
Oh,
mix.
super cleanup.
This looks great. It just is like the perfect fall lasagna. Okay, I made a classic bechamel.
Ooh.
So this, I put some of it already underneath the little lasagna rolls.
Nutmeg and all.
Yeah, little nutmeg. The
Yes.
nutmeg's really important because of the kale, too. I think that really brings out the flavor in the greens. And I've got some cooked lasagna noodles here. It takes about 1/3 of a cup of filling per lasagna noodle. And then we're just gonna spread it out.
Just that whack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Put
a
it right
cartoon
down.
sound
Yeah.
I'm seeing.
Right?
Yeah.
I
Love
mean,
it.
Now, if you're going to the effort of making this, maybe you want to just double the recipe.
Yep.
And freeze.
Yeah.
Like I said, these freeze individually really nicely.
Tell you, if you ask me, I would serve this at Thanksgiving.
It'd be a great, great
one of those-
vegetarian.
It's like a mix of
Yeah.
a mashup.
Oh, well, there's some families that do lasagna on
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thanksgiving.
That's a lot. Yep. Lasagna or ravioli.
I mean, I would take lasagna any day. All right, so
Oh,
little
my.
spirals.
Pretty.
Beautiful spiral.
Pop them in the 8x8 here. Now, one of our favorite things to do in the fall, we've done the last couple of years now that we have Iris, is to go to Hank's Pumpkin Town. Do you know Hank's Pumpkin Town?
course.
It's in Southampton. The traffic is crazy around this place because it's on a 2-lane highway.
Worth it.
So it's like you got to plan to be sitting there for a while. But look how much she loves it.
Let me see.
Here she is on her little tractor.
Oh,
Having a great time. All right, I'm gonna top this with the bechamel.
That looks luscious.
double besh.
So this is our sauce, and it smells so good.
You could have just
smell
even
that
more
little
named that and
bit
throw the
of-
cheese in, but
of
it's over the
nutmeg.
top, huh?
Yeah.
I'll
so
take
here
it.
we go.
Dare I say, you might even want to like bump the nutmeg up. because of
Yeah.
all the kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
Fall
everything
flavors
that's
here.
in this benefits from that little bit of nutmeg. All right, so smear it all over, and then I'm gonna top it with more cheese.
That's right.
Because lasagna needs to have cheese.
Did your mother approve this recipe? 'Cause
This would definitely not be a Kim Becker approved recipe.
And Becker
Oh,
would
is this,
not-
Yeah.
this is no.
Well, it does have kale and butternut squash and mushrooms, but all the cream and the cheese.
Katie, that's the liberal amount of cheese there, honey bunny.
I
I
really
like you in the winter months.
I like
Wow,
that
what restraint.
And now for that,
I like a thick layer of cheese on top of my
I'm with you.
lasagna. I don't play when it comes to the cheese. Okay, this is gonna go in 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. This is heavy.
Covered
let me
or
tell you.
uncovered?
Uncovered. If it starts to brown too much, then
Covered,
you can
okay.
cover it up.
A little guy in there, yeah.
Gotcha.
All right.
Oh,
You see that?
a little corner.
Silence. Move the tray. Move the tray.
I don't know what to
Jeff.
do. I'm staring at the cheese.
Move it.
I'm sorry.
That's an oven pull.
how much does that weigh? 14 pounds?
I mean, this is heavy.
Feel it. Watch the. Oh my God, there's a fissure in the cooking board.
Yeah. It is heavy. Now, usually you'd let this sit
Right.
for like 10
Forget
minutes
it.
before you cut into
stop
it.
it.
But we are not in the business of having patience,
No,
right?
I will take the
When it
lasagna
comes-
lanch right now.
a lasagna
go.
lanch?
Lasagna lanch.
You might want
Lasagna
to rename
lanch?
lasagna
Yeah.
lanch.
All right, and you want a corner, right?
Of
The
course
corner's
you
like-
want the corner of the lasagna.
Also, maybe because you did the roll-up thing, maybe you don't have to.
Oh,
rest it
that's
as
right, you just-
much because it's not
That's
like
true, that's
layered
true.
like that. I don't know. I'm just trying to
That's
so we can eat
true.
it quicker.
Probably just have to pull out a roll.
justifying.
Yeah, it really is just getting a roll.
Oh my
Oh, I think
God.
I think you found a roll.
Did?
You know what good with this, Jeff? We'll go good.
A beer.
A side of sausage.
Oh yeah, well,
Oh, yeah. This will be great with sausage
Yeah.
in it if
Oh
you
my
wanted to add
God.
meat.
You can even do like a turkey or like turkey crumble. You know,
Yes,
even like
yes.
ground turkey.
Oh my
But
God.
I mean, I
this
have a
looks-
feeling we're gonna
I
be
feel
wanting
really-
for nothing.
Oh wait, should I pass? I should.
No.
No, it's yours.
No,
it's all
don't.
yours.
Okay.
Out. Eat
Nobody's
it.
gonna judge you here.
Look at that.
Wow, that's gooey.
And yeah.
Oh no.
Earthy mushrooms, the kale. The kale doesn't stand a chance in here.
It's really just there for decoration, right?
I think you're cute with your window dressing this time of year. I get it. But honestly,
4 o'clock.
this is about that squash, the cheese, the earthiness of the mushrooms. The bechamel is like a comforter in front of the fire. You know what I mean?
Look
It's
at
already getting warm, then you add more warmth.
Starting out just the way we do with a standard bolognese. I've got all my flavor bases. I've got some onions, some garlic, some fennel, which I'm gonna get diced up here, a couple of celeries. Just get these all hacked up and puree them. And we start to brown our food. Then we're gonna add a bunch of pork and brown that too. And these are gonna be in between the layers of our roasted butternut squash. Good stuff. Let's give a little lubrication to our pan. Ooh. Okay. My flavor bases are in the pan. Big salt. We got a big pan. We need big salt. This is how we go in the restaurant. Big food. And a pinch of crushed red peppers. We're on our way, browning away. I'm gonna brown the crap out of this. All right, I've developed beautiful crud. That's just what I'm looking for. So now it's time for big meat. Yay. All right, my ground pork. It's just the way it rolls. Okay, oh, look at that. So, some salt we got in there. And we start to crunch this all up, really to get brown meat. Again, we're gonna repeat these same ideas of really developing big brown flavor. And sort of like as flavorful as it can possibly get one step before it's burnt. Smells so good. So, brown food has developed. So I'm going to add a bunch of tomato paste. Now I have tomato paste, and I'm gonna grab some canned pureed tomatoes. I'm gonna toss those in also. All of these steps in the formation of this ragu in the beginning are really important. Some wine. That makes everybody happy. So I'm stirring my tomato paste around, really stirring it to get involved. I'm gonna add a little bit of a super secret flavor weapon. Butternut squash and cinnamon go so well together. So I'm gonna throw in a couple of cinnamon sticks, thyme bundle, bay leaves, some canned pureed tomatoes. Oh yeah. I can see big flavors developing. Why? Because I can see brown food happening. So this is where we go. This is welcome to the dance. We add water and reduce, add water and reduce. So this is the dance that we have, the life cycle of the ragu. Just the way I do in the restaurant, I do in my home. It's the life cycle of our ragu, and my life cycle is doing beautiful things here right now. So we add a little water and reduce, and I'm gonna keep on doing this for, you know, another hour or so. Well, in the place of noodles, I have a butternut squash. We're all about fall flavors today, or wintertime stuff. So I'm just gonna cut this guy in half straight away, and then I'm gonna cut it into quarters to give myself a little bit of a help here. Hey. Okay, and I'm gonna slice this thin. There we go. Nice. So look at that. That looks like a beautiful sort of lasagna kind of noodle. So just a little toss with some olive oil and salt, as I said, get them in the oven. And then we're gonna be ready to have some lasagna noodles. We do a nice layer of our butternut squash in the bottom of our dish. Then we do a little layer of ragu. Notice I'm saying gluten-free, but we're not vegetarian, so we still have big, hearty things happening here. I'm gonna do a few dots of ricotta cheese all over the place. We're gonna give it some creaminess. All right, a few mushrooms and some spinach. Look, we have beautiful green. Like, this just is going to be a really pretty looking lasagna. That's a good thing. All right, now once I get my spinach layer in there, we're gonna give it a little parm, a little more cheese factor. And then we're gonna do another layer of our noodles, our butternut squash. So how we're gonna do that is we're gonna lay them in the other direction to kind of stabilize the whole issue. All right, so look at my beautiful lasagna all put together. I'm just gonna add one more layer of my gorgeous, delightful, delicious ragu. This kind of seals the deal. And one more sprinky dink of parm. I'm gonna wrap this in aluminum foil and then get it in the oven. So, you know, the thing about lasagna is best if you have a chance to bake it, let it cool, and then warm it up. Why? So it will do a beautiful job slicing. If you don't have that chance to do that, that's okay. It just won't slice as beautifully as if you had the time to do that. But you know what? It will still taste delicious. Why? Because we took the time to taste all of our parts to know that we're putting together a beautiful, beautiful something, something. So there we go. Look at that. Hello. I'm gonna take a picture of it. You look really good. I'm gonna toss this on a sheet tray just in case things bubble over so I, you know, don't have crud on the bottom of my oven. Always thinking. All right. Some foil. Now, I'm gonna put this in a preheated oven, 375 degrees. We're gonna go for about, 50, 55 minutes. I'm gonna roast this for, ooh, that's a lot of lasagna. I'm gonna roast it for 45 minutes covered and then another 10 uncovered to get a little crispy and crunchy on top. There we go. I'm gonna take this middle piece, yes. Oh, look at that. That is beautiful. That is lasagna. It's gluten-free, it's noodle-free, it's very seasonal, and it smells fantastic. Oh, I rocked this one out. Okay, that looks like a lasagna dinner to me, doesn't it? This is spectacular. Yeah. The butternut squash feels just like noodles, but it has just the lovely sweetness. And that pork ragu with a little poke of cinnamon, the ricotta, oh.
I've just got ground beef and sausage browned. I'm gonna add a few more things. A can of diced tomatoes, juice and all, and a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. Gotta have plenty of garlic in any lasagna dish. And then some salt and pepper. Keep things really seasoned for the season. I'm gonna stir this all together, and then it needs to simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna make the cheese mixture for the lasagna dip. And so I've got about 1/3 cup of the cottage cheese and ricotta and about 1/4 cup of the Parmesan. And then I wanna make this really herby and delicious, so I've got some chopped basil and chopped parsley, and then some salt and pepper. And then I'll just smush this all together. Okay, that is all mixed together. So now I'm gonna assemble the dip. It is a lot of fun. I'm gonna start with a layer of the meat sauce. I'll add half of it to the bottom of a square baking dish. Now I'll add dollops of the cheese mixture. Now, as if that's not enough cheese, I am gonna add a layer of grated mozzarella. Okay, now I'll repeat the layers one more time, the rest of the meat mixture. All right, and another layer of the creamy ricotta mixture, the rest of the mozzarella, and that's all there is to assembling it. Now I've got to bake it at 425 degrees for 15 minutes. Noodle chips coming right up. I cut boiled and cooled lasagna noodles into triangles, put all 80 of them into a bowl, then added 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 1/3 cup of grated Parmesan, a tablespoon of chopped fresh oregano, mixed everything together, split the chips between 2 sheet pans, baked them at 375 degrees for 20 minutes, then took the crispy wonders out to cool. All right, now I want to sprinkle some of these beautiful herbs over the top. Lasagna dip and chips, perfect for the holidays.
And I'm using yellow squash and zucchini. I'm cutting my vegetables on a slight bias here. Add some olive oil and some salt and pepper. Give it a little mix. My grill is nice and hot. I'm not gonna leave them on the grill too long, just until they get that nice little char lines on there. Remember, the veggies are gonna continue to cook in the oven. You know, I'm a Southern woman and I eat a lot of Southern food. It's nice to change it up sometimes. And actually, growing up, my mom's favorite meal to make was lasagna. And that's how I learned how to make lasagna. And she learned how to make lasagna from her Uncle Tony. And I remember Uncle Tony, he was actually my favorite uncle before he passed away, and he could make a mean lasagna. While these grill, I'm gonna get started on my sauce. Olive oil, fresh garlic, tomato paste. I'm using crushed tomatoes, paste, and tomato sauce. I like a really chunky sauce. And because I'm not using meat and I'm using vegetables, I need something with little substance. Tomato sauce. Crushed tomatoes, and that gives you that really nice, fresh tomatoey flavor, and it's gonna give this sauce a really great texture. Looks like my veggies need to be flipped. You see, that's all I wanted to do was get those nice grilled lines. You always think lasagna is very heavy. Vegetable lasagna is very light, very flavorful, and adding these grill marks, you're gonna get some of that grill flavor. Let the other side grill. Continue with my sauce. Red wine, 1/3 cup. It makes it really, really robust. And don't worry about it, the alcohol will cook out and all of the flavors will remain. Tablespoon of Italian seasoning, a 1/2 teaspoon of ground fennel. It just gives it this nice little like licorice flavor that I really like. Oh, those are beautiful. One bay leaf, salt and pepper. And because tomato sauce is very acidic, I like to add sugar. I say about 2 teaspoons. Some fresh parsley, give it a chop, add it to the pot. In 20 minutes, this is gonna be very, very delicious. But if you have the time, if you wanna cook it earlier in the day, you can. It's gonna be even more delicious, but it's fine in 20 minutes. All right, put that on. Let me get started on my ricotta. So I like to use about a pound of ricotta. I'm transporting myself to Italy. And oh, I can't wait till I add the mozzarella. A nice helping of grated Parmesan, some mozzarella. I like using fresh mozzarella because it has a little less moisture, and once it melts, it's gonna have a really nice stretch. I need to add some salt, about a half a cup of milk. Like with anything that I cook, I like building layers of flavor, and lasagna is exactly that, layers of flavor. The thing about ricotta cheese is that it can really stretch and get really liquidy if you don't add an egg. I smell the char on the veggies. I smell that sauce going back there. I'm really excited about this lasagna. So my ricotta mixture is done. Let me get my sauce and start building this lasagna. I've got my 9x13 casserole dish, and I'm using oven-ready lasagna. When I first started making lasagnas, you have to boil it and deal with that flimsy little pasta and everything's slipping and everything's going all over the place. You don't have to worry about that because these lasagna sheets are dry. The first thing I like to do is add a little sauce in the casserole dish because it helps prevent the pasta from sticking. Mix it around here. Now I'm gonna add my oven-ready lasagna sheets. Fit it to however you like. It's like kind of like a puzzle. There you go. Another layer of sauce. Adding my veggies. Now this lovely ricotta mixture. Whew. So that looks good. I'm just gonna keep doing the same thing until I get to the very top or until I run out of noodles. I like to make a little design on the top because it's, you know, you see the top layer, so try to make it cute. That same fresh mozzarella I used in the ricotta mixture, it's gonna get nice and golden and melty. Parmesan cheese. Fresh basil. I like the flavor of sweet basil, especially with a good pasta sauce. With lasagna, it's always best to start off with it covered so the noodles and the sauce and everything melts and gets nice and cooked. Then I uncover it and let it bake for an additional 15 minutes so all the cheese will melt on top and it's gonna get nice and golden brown. It's time to uncover my lasagna. Yes, whew, that smells delicious. Oh, baby. I immediately smell the sauce, I'm smelling the basil, I smell the fresh veggies. That needs about 15 more minutes. I just want the top to get nice, brown, and bubbly. My lasagna is done. Oh, look at that. This is gorgeous. It's nice and brown on top. The cheese has nicely melted. Oh, wow. Did y'all bring your appetite?
Of course we did.
Yeah. The oldest boy will get his first corner. Okay, this is a big piece. He's a fireman, you know, he deserves this. He's been saving lives.
So I'll start by heating a 1/4 cup of olive oil in a nice big skillet with a lot of surface area. Take the ground beef and just break it up a little bit so that I can really get in there with the salt. So I'll just add that right in. This is 1½ pounds. And right away, spread it out in a nice even layer so you can get the beef browning. 2 carrots and just 2 stalks of celery. I'll just slice them up nice and thin. Now I want to cook my carrots, celery, and onions from my bolognese in that wonderful beef fat. So I'll take the ground beef out. Now don't worry if there's a little beefy residue in here, that's fantastic. To that pan, I'm gonna add celery and carrots and the onion. Pinch of salt. You just see how I'm scraping the edges and the bottom, getting all those wonderful beef bits integrated into the foundation of my bolognese sauce. Once they've had a minute to meld together and caramelize, I'm gonna add the beef back in. So I'll give that another minute. And meanwhile, so once you stir the pasta, it's been about 7 minutes here, and they're starting to be bendable, but they still feel pretty al dente, pretty firm. I'll drain them. I'm gonna just coat it with a little bit of olive oil just to prevent them from sticking. And of course, to give them a little flavor. So I have my regular tomato sauce for my lasagna, and I have this meat sauce. Look at this, how the vegetables have cooked down. We're ready to put our sauce over this and turn it into meat sauce extraordinaire. I just spoon that right over it. Now, I made these sauces with fresh tomatoes, but you can make them with canned, and you can also make a big batch of this and freeze it. Look at this, how the vegetables have cooked down and the meat and the tomato is all melded together. So to finish this off, I'm just gonna add a splash of milk. Now that sort of adds that creamy effect, but in a really light way. Now we're ready to put together our lasagna. I'm gonna start with a basic lasagna, tomato, mozzarella, parmesan pasta. And we're gonna keep our bolognese on the side. And if we feel like it, we'll just drizzle that over the top and maybe underneath. Maybe we won't. So I'll start with the layer of the tomato. And I start in with my lasagna. I do like to have them overlap slightly. This is really fun to put together. Then I start with my favorite part, the cheese. Now you've got to allow for the spread factor, so you don't have to completely coat it with the cheese. Now when I assemble the lasagna, I also like to have a baking sheet underneath it. That way any overflow will be trapped in here and not on the bottom of my oven. All right, now I'm ready to pop this into the oven. The foil really protects it from overly browning on the top as it cooks. So I will cook that at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. Then I'll take that foil off and give it that nice last browning broil. Now I could eat it just like this, which is fantastic, and vegetarian. Or I could soup it up even more with a little of that bolognese sauce. And then a little of that leftover parm, why not?
I am making my chicken Alfredo lasagna. It's creamy and rich and super indulgent. It's basically the cozy flannel sheet version of lasagna. To start, I've got a couple of chicken breasts cooking in my skillet here, and I've seasoned them with some Italian seasonings for extra flavor. You could also just go a shortcut route and use a rotisserie chicken from the store. I'll transfer these to a pan. I'll set these aside while I make my Alfredo sauce. I'll do it in the same skillet where I just cooked the chicken. I'm gonna add 6 tablespoons of butter. Get down.
As the butter melts, I'll scrape the pan to get those chicken bits incorporated
Because those harbor a lot of flavor.
and add in 6 cloves of minced garlic.
I'll let this cook just for about a minute or two so that the garlic can soften. And when I can really start to smell it, that's how I know it's ready to move to the next step. Garlic and butter is the key to a good Alfredo. I'm gonna add some flour now, which is gonna help to thicken my sauce. 2 tablespoons is all I need. And the butter with the flour together is gonna create a roux, and that's gonna thicken up some milk and heavy cream.
So that it's just extra rich.
I love lasagna made with a bechamel type sauce like this. Now I'm gonna add 2 cups of whole milk mixed with 1 cup of heavy cream.
I'll pour this in gradually as I mix continuously until it starts to get luxurious.
This is looking really creamy and dreamy. It hasn't reached its full thickness yet, but it's gonna continue to thicken up once I add my cheese. I've got shredded parm, which is gonna load it up on flavor. And in my creamy sauces, I love a little bit of nutmeg. It'll cozy it up. I'll just grate in a little bit. And then I'll mix in 2½ cups of freshly grated Parmesan for loads of flavor. I'll sprinkle in about half of it and whisk it in until it melts. I'll add in a little more, and I'm gonna save some for the top. Okay, I'm gonna add lots of black pepper, and the Parmesan is pretty salty,
So I don't need to add more salt.
give it a taste. Yes, that is perfect. All right, I'll just keep this on low while I chop up my chicken. Normally I'm super opposed to chicken and cheese. I don't think that they go well together. But chicken and parm and a little bit of mozzarella in this, I make an exception for. My chicken's all cubed up. I'll also chop up some parsley. It'll be really pretty and green. Add some fiber. Gotta have something green in there. Okay, to put this decadent lasagna together, I've got a buttered casserole dish, some shredded mozzarella for meltiness, and no boil lasagna noodles. I'm gonna start with a layer of sauce in my dish. I'll spread it all over the bottom. I'll lay down 3 noodles, spacing them out evenly, and they expand a little bit in the oven. I'll add another layer of sauce, make them extra cozy. I'll sprinkle on some chicken, some mozzarella. Lasagna is all about the textures. You have the creamy sauce, melty mozzarella, noodly noodles, and that juicy, tender chicken. Ugh, all in one bite. A little parsley. And I'll just repeat this 2 more times. Nick grew up eating a lot of Italian food because he was on the cross-country team. The night before a meet, they would have pasta parties. I'll finish with my remaining Parmesan. Oh yeah, just enough cheese. All right, this is ready for the oven. I'll stick it in at 350 degrees for 40 to 50 minutes until the cheese is super melty and the noodles are tender. I'm gonna crush this.
So what I have in this pot is I've sauteed some onions and garlic and then broken up some sausage that I got at the store. And this is turkey sausage. You can get hot, you can get sweet, but I actually like to combine the two, so it's half and half. It's about 1.5 pounds of sausage. And it's all cooked in a little bit of olive oil. Then I'm gonna add tomatoes, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes in puree. If you use whole tomatoes, you can just put it in the food processor and crush them up yourself. And a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, the whole can. I'm gonna add lots of flavoring. Some fresh basil. Just pick off some leaves and chop it up coarsely. It's all gonna cook together anyway. I love basil, and it tastes so good with tomatoes and turkey sausage. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so right into the tomato and turkey sausage. And then I think some fresh parsley. You can use flat leaf parsley like this, or you can use curly parsley. I think this has a little more flavor, but really depends on the parsley. Right into the pot. I think we need salt and pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. A lot of this depends on how salty and peppery the sausage is, so you'll want to taste it. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and then just stir it up. I'm just going to let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes over low heat until all the flavors blend together and the tomato and the basil and the turkey sausage all taste like one. Okay, now I'm going to get the cheeses ready. I need 15 ounces of ricotta cheese, which is usually 1 package. And then I'm going to put lots of flavors in it. First thing is goat cheese. I know it's unusual in a lasagna, but I think it really gives it great flavor. So this is a 4-ounce package. I mean, if you have a 4.5-ounce package or 5-ounce package, just be casual about it. It's just fine. Just crumble it right up into the ricotta. Sort of a little more pungent kind of flavor. It's good. 1 cup of grated Parmesan. Just mix that in. And then 1 egg. You know, when you're putting an egg into a mixture, I always put it into another glass bowl because you never know when you get a bad egg. So 1 egg, extra large egg, just mix that in. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of flavor with some chopped parsley. About 2 tablespoons. And of course, salt and pepper. You don't need too much because the Parmesan's pretty salty. 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Just spread it out along the bottom of the dish. Mush it around. Just want to do 1 layer of pasta right on top of the tomatoes. They don't have to be perfect, just cut them to fit. Just take about half the mozzarella and layer it on top. And then the next layer is this cheese, the ricotta, about half the cheese. Remember, it's the ricotta and goat cheese and Parmesan. More sausage. Okay, another layer of noodles. More mozzarella. The rest of the cheese. It's amazing how fast this builds up. There's nothing more strenuous to do than grate some Parmesan over it and put it in the oven at 400 degrees for 30 minutes.
I'm going to start by breaking up some lasagna noodles, and I'm going to put them into a bowl, and then they'll be ready to drop in the boiling water later. I've already got boiling water going. There's nothing worse than having a soup or sauce all ready, and then you realize, oh no, I've got to bring a big pot of water to a boil. I'm just breaking them into random pieces so you don't have to follow any sort of size. Got those on standby. And now I'm going to slice up an onion. You just cut off the tip and then peel off the outer layer. This soup is one of my family's favorite things right now. It's kind of a mashup of lasagna and soup, which makes perfect sense. And I love things like that, where you take something like lasagna that you've made for years and years, and then you turn it into a completely different dish. So once you cut the onion in half, just lay it on its side, and you can cut nice half-moon slices, I call them. This is so much easier than slicing a whole onion because you have this flat surface that kind of stabilizes the onion. I don't have the fanciest knife skills out there, so I need all the little tricks I can get. Okay, I've just got the little bit. So the onion is sliced. I'm separating the onion slices. Now, of course, any lasagna recipe has to have plenty of garlic. So I've got 4 cloves. And the easiest way to break open a clove of garlic is just to take the knife, smash it with your hand. You can sort of think about the things that you're frustrated about this week. Whack a clove of garlic. Everything instantly seems better. You know, in the supermarkets, they sell bags of peeled garlic now, which is really a time saver if you use a lot of garlic in your cooking. I do confess to buying bags of peeled garlic cloves. So I'm actually a little rusty right now peeling garlic. I forgot how. All right, I'm just mincing the garlic, and it just kind of takes gathering it up, holding the knife, and just kind of rocking it back and forth. This is one of those things you can't rush. The more you mince it up, the more garlic flavor is going to wind up in your dish. Are you having fun yet? I am. Thank you for cooking with me. It's always more fun to cook with a friend than by yourself. Okay, the garlic is nice and minced. So I've also got a couple of fresh herbs, and they're 2 of my favorites, oregano and thyme. And I'll just strip the leaves off of the stalk. And I'll do the same thing to the thyme. Just hold the top and then take your fingers and just peel off the leaves. They come off so easily. Sometimes thyme is so delicate that you can actually just chop up the stalk along with the leaves. So I'm going to mince these up together. There is no better smell than fresh herbs. I live in Oklahoma and we have 4 seasons. So when I don't have herbs growing in my garden, I'm just not as happy an individual. Okay, got all this ready. Now I'm going to get over to the pot and get things going. I'm going to add plenty of olive oil, and I've already got the big Dutch oven preheated. I just added about 1/4 cup of olive oil, and then you want to grab these beautiful sliced onions. Whoop. And this is why I wear floral or otherwise patterned tops. So if I slosh a little olive oil on myself, nobody will know. And then the garlic goes in. It smells amazing already. It's crazy how quickly that happens. And then all of these beautiful fresh herbs go in. Oh, I'm gonna grab a spoon. So you just want to stir the onions and garlic with the herbs and get those softened. Oh, just glorious. This is a great way to start any soup recipe at all. So these are getting off to a good start. So I'm going to add the meat. I'm doing a mixture of ground beef and then just some regular pork sausage. You can use Italian sausage, This is one of those recipes you can just open your fridge. If you have some ground beef that you need to use, if you have a whole bunch of sausage, you can just omit the beef entirely, do a sausage version. You could even do ground turkey. All of the recipes that I make are incredibly versatile, meaning if I'm out of something, I can swap in so many other things. I think that is the case because I live in the country and I've learned the hard way that if I run out of something I need, I'm out. I can't take the time to drive to town and go to the store. Okay, so you want to crumble up the meat, just kind of break it up with a spoon. And this is a good time to add some kosher salt. And this is not the last time you're going to see me grab the black pepper. I'm a big black pepper fan. And then it's just about stirring and cooking this until both meats are totally browned. So get up to that point, and then we'll keep moving forward. All right, the meat is totally browned. It took about 5 minutes. This hot Dutch oven, it doesn't take long. Now, depending on how lean your ground beef is, it's always a good idea to drain any excess grease. So I just kind of tilt it. The goal for me is never completely removing all the grease because there is flavor in there. I just kind of get out the big pools of it, but you want to leave a little bit behind because it does add to the overall flavor of the soup. I think that's good enough. And there's still a little bit in the bottom of the pot, and that's what you want. So now that the onions and garlic and meat are cooked, I'm going to start adding the other soup ingredients. Add some tomato paste. And you want to stir the tomato paste in and let it really get against the bottom of this hot pan. It almost kind of fries the paste and deepens the flavor. It kind of wakes it up in a way. And you just want to stir it around for about 30 seconds before you start adding the other things. And by other things, I've got a little carafe of the hard stuff. It's actually not hard stuff, it's just white wine. You can use red wine, white wine, whatever you have handy. And it's good to use something that you already have open. You don't have to use fine wine when it comes to making a soup like this. Oh, the smell of wine wafting out of a pan. I think that's one of the smells in heaven. Along with citrus, lavender. I have a list of smells in heaven. Okay, so now that the wine has partially evaporated, you want to add a can of whole tomatoes, and you can do diced tomatoes, stewed tomatoes. You can even do tomato puree if you're somebody that doesn't like to have big chunks of tomatoes. When I make my regular lasagna recipe, it always has big tomato chunks. So I kind of wanted the soup to be similar. Now, some fancy chefs get in there and squeeze the tomatoes with their hands. I'm just going to use the spoon. Every time I try to squeeze a tomato with my hand, it either squirts me in the eye or winds up in my hair, and I'm trying to look nice for you guys, so I'm just going to let the spoon do all the squishing and mushing. I really love this soup. I have 2 teenage boys still at home. My daughters are out of the house now. So the meaty, hearty, really home-style recipes are really front and center in my house these days. Both of my boys play football, so having a soup like this ready to go when they get home from practice is just my favorite category of things to cook for them. Okay, all the tomatoes are broken up, so the liquid for the soup comes next. I'm using 4 cups of vegetable stock. You can use beef stock, beef broth, chicken stock, chicken broth. Really, you just kind of want a flavorful liquid of any kind. You could even use bouillon cubes and dissolve them in some boiling water. In a pinch, I've done that for sure. Give it a stir, and then I've got some fresh parsley. I already pulled some of the leaves off of some parsley stems, and there's nothing complicated about this. I am not precise when it comes to picking the leaves off of herbs. I don't have time to be precise in my life. If there's a little stem in there, it's not gonna matter. And then with parsley, I like to chop it up, I call it kind of halfway, because I still like to see those pretty little flat leaves. You don't have to mince the heck out of it. All right, that looks fantastic. Now I'm gonna save some of this parsley for another little component I'm gonna make in a minute, but I'll add some of it to the soup. Give it a quick stir. And then I can't forget about my lasagna noodles. This is a good time to pour those in. All right, you need to bring the soup to a boil and then reduce it to a simmer and let it cook for 20 minutes. You need to cook the lasagna noodles, so take care of that, and I'll see you back here in a bit. So how does your soup look? Mine looks pretty darn good. It's been simmering away. It got a little bit richer in color. Looking great. I drained the lasagna noodles. You want to do that about 10 minutes in. You don't want to cook them all the way because they're eventually going to go back into the soup, and you do not want a mushy lasagna noodle. I'm going to wait on that because I'm going to make a really delicious ricotta mixture. It starts with ricotta cheese, and you want to add some grated Parmesan, and the rest of the minced parsley that you cut up. Add that in, and then add some salt and pepper. This is very, very simple. In regular lasagna, you would make a ricotta mixture to put in between the layers of sauce and noodles. I'm going to turn these into little dollops. I kind of call them ricotta dumplings that go on top of the soup once you dish it up. Oh, and this happens all the time. I totally forgot to add the basil. No harm, no foul. It's not too late. I'm going to pick off a few leaves, talk about an herb that I love. Oh, gosh, there's no replacement for basil. It is delicious. And this is one of the herbs that is the hardest for me to get in the wintertime in Oklahoma. So for that reason, in the summertime, I really go crazy. I plant so much basil to the point that it's just coming out of my ears, basically. Now, you can just kind of roughly chop the basil. I just rolled it up in a really rough ball, and I don't know if I can even call this chiffonade. I just kind of cut it into strips, and then you want to add the basil to the ricotta mixture, and now I can stir it up, now that I've added everything. Sometimes when you forget an ingredient, it's no big deal, like with the basil. Even if you forgot it in the ricotta, you could sprinkle it over the soup. The worst thing to forget when you're in the kitchen is some kind of a baking ingredient. I have a chocolate sheet cake that I make, and even after all these years of making it from memory, every now and then I'll forget to add the baking soda. And I don't realize it until I pull the cake out of the oven, and it's basically a little flat chocolate pancake instead of a cake. Those are some very dark days. All right, so it's good to have the ricotta mixture all ready to go. I'm gonna get back over here to this beautiful soup, and I'm gonna turn the heat way, way down. Now, I cannot leave well enough alone. This soup would be delicious as it is now, but if you add a little bit of heavy cream to the pot, it doesn't turn it into a creamy tomato soup at all. It just kind of takes the edge off of all of that tomato and all of that richness. Trust me, it is really good with the cream. If you want to omit the cream, that's totally fine too. Again, this is one of those recipes that's totally versatile. You can add a bunch of cream if you want. You can add a bunch of Parmesan to the soup. You can keep the Parmesan limited to the ricotta mixture. There are no rules in my kitchen. Hopefully it's the same in your kitchen. Now it's time for the broken up lasagna noodles. Those just go right in. And they're just under the al dente stage. You want to have a little bit of room for forgiveness, because when the noodles simmer in the soup, they will keep cooking. How beautiful does this look? Now I'm actually gonna get a few more leaves of basil, just because I feel like it. This time, you can just tear them right in. No need to use the knife. Sometimes when I do things like this, I tell myself I'm being rustic, but I'm actually just being lazy. I don't want to chop it up. How pretty does this look? All right, now just wait till you see it in the bowl. Okay. When you serve up this soup, you want to have a bowl that has somewhat of a wide rim so you can see all the gorgeousness. And I really like food to look pretty, so I make sure I get chunks of tomato, plenty of basil, of course, lasagna. I'm a lifelong pasta lover. Okie doke. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more basil to the top. You can keep adding basil or not. I don't think you can ever have too much. And then I'm gonna grab a little spoon, and this is how the ricotta mixture plays out. You just scoop a little bit of a round dollop and drop it right on. You can just do one, or you can do two. Get on there. Or, if you're me, you can do three. If one is good, three is better. That's my motto. And then as this sits in the soup, it's just gonna get creamier and creamier. Look at this, I have a little extra Parmesan left in the measuring cup. Little more basil. I told you I can't stop. Look at this soup, guys. I've been smelling it, and now I cannot wait to taste it. Oh, it is even more delicious than the last time I made it. It's so rich and meaty and hearty. Honestly, that cream really sends it over the top. It just kind of adds a richness. I taste the basil. I got a little piece of the ricotta. It's perfect. Lasagna soup. I'm adding 3 pounds of ground beef and 2 pounds of just regular pork breakfast sausage to a big pot. And then I'll add about 5 cloves of minced garlic. Now I'm just gonna cook the meat mixture until it's totally browned. I'm gonna add 2 28-ounce cans of diced tomatoes, and then I'll add 2 cans of tomato paste. If you have the little cans of tomato paste, you'd actually need to add 4 cans. This is one of those recipes that I could seriously make in my sleep because my mom made it so much and I have made it so much. All right, now I'll just stir in all the tomato stuff, and I'm gonna add some salt and pepper. It's a lot of meat, so it needs some seasoning. I'll add some fresh herbs later. It just needs to simmer uncovered for about 45 minutes. Okay, now I'm gonna add half of the herbs to the sauce, and then I'm gonna save the rest of the herbs for the cheese mixture. Okay, the sauce is pretty much ready, so I'll go ahead and make the cheese mixture for the lasagna. I've got 2 big containers of cottage cheese. Even if you don't like cottage cheese by itself, it's delicious in this lasagna. My husband would not touch cottage cheese by itself to save his life, but he loves this lasagna. All right, now to the cottage cheese, I'll add 4 beaten eggs, and that helps bind the lasagna all together. And then a cup of grated Parmesan. Then I'll add a little bit of salt and pepper and mix it all together. The cottage cheese mixture is a little more mild than the ricotta flavor, so you really taste the meat and the sauce. All right, that's all stirred together. Now I'll just throw in the rest of the herbs, the parsley and the basil. All the elements are ready, and I'm gonna start assembling it. I'll lay 4 lasagna noodles in the bottom of these disposable foil pans. All right, on top of the layer of noodles, I'm gonna spoon 1/4 of the cheese mixture right over the top. So I'll just spread that all over the noodles. Now on top of the cheese mixture, I'm gonna lay slices of mozzarella. It's just a big old spoonful, pretty much on top of each slice of cheese. All right, and spread that out. Now I'm gonna repeat the layer exactly like the first one. It needs to bake at 350 for about 45 minutes to an hour until it's hot and bubbly. I'll leave the foil on so the top won't get too burned.